Hello everyone, Rabbi Abe here. So this is a bit of a touchy subject, and if you're easily frightened, don't watch this video, okay? I get a lot of questions about reincarnation and what happens after a person dies. After a person leaves this world, what is the process? And the Zohar goes over it step by step, okay? You have to know where to look in the Zohar. There are different references and different sections of the Zohar. I'm going to share with you some of these secrets. What does the soul and the body, what does it go through after it leaves this world? So, as I said, if you're easily shaken, maybe this isn't the video for you. But for the rest, this can help us understand how to do our spiritual work now and understand what the process is. So, we're going to first go after the first moment of death, okay? By the way, I want to mention, there's a lot of videos of near-death experiences, NDEs, out there on YouTube. You have to keep in mind one thing when you watch these things. I mean, you know, people describe incredible things and they met God and they did this and they did that. But you have to keep one thing in mind. They're all here. They're back here to tell about it. So it may not be exactly the same process as when a person is actually going to leave and not come back, okay? So it's very possible that there is a different process, and all the near-death experiences are not exactly death. Because even though clinically a person has experienced death, there are criteria, okay, spiritual criteria that also determines death beyond brain waves and heart stops and so on. Again, the proof is because the person came back and is now telling about it. So where did they go? And what is it that they are actually explaining? Is that actual death? So the Zohar may differ from many of these explanations on near-death experiences. So let me preface with that. Okay. I'm going to actually read to you. I can read to you all the excerpts. That would be a little bit long. We'll start off with a direct excerpt from the Zohar, and then we'll just go with the translations. I'll tell you where it actually comes from. Okay, so the actual moment of death. And this is coming from the portion of Jethro. It's volume 8 in the Aramaic section of the Zohar. B'sha'ata de nishmata nafka megufa. כל בני משפחה דהה קראו דביתה, מסתכלין, מתרייהון ומתחזה על הגופה ורוחין בישין מסבין לי. What does this mean? What is the Zohar telling us? At the moment when a soul departs the body, which is classified as death, when it completely departs from the body. And keep in mind, there are different levels of souls that leave at different times. According to what the Kabbalists explain, the lowest level of soul does stay with the body for a certain amount of time. And that would be called the nefesh. So the three basic components of the soul, even though there are another two, is nefesh, the crude spirit, ruach, the spirit, higher level of soul or spirit, and neshama, a soul, a true soul. So why are there different names? Well, the Kabbalah is teaching us that a soul is not just a soul, S-O-U-L, okay? There are different levels of that. And the lowest level, which incidentally connects to the body through the blood, okay, which is why that would explain why the blood can affect the consciousness of an individual. You know, many of us have heard of stories of transplants, heart transplant maybe, and the personality may be changing because the heart is the seat of the blood and the seat of desire, and the blood is directly connected to the lower level of the soul, the lower consciousness, I won't go into all the details, but the red part of the blood connects with the the white part of the blood, that would be the white cells. The highest level of the physical blood connects with the lowest level of spirit. Okay. Anyhow, at the moment when the soul departs from the body, all the relatives of that person, of that soul, from the household, withdraw from their places, meaning from wherever they are in the spiritual world, and gather around the body. So that is true. That is true. The relatives and loved ones, perhaps spiritual teachers, surround that individual, and they are present at the time that the soul is leaving the body. And there are those that say it is a way to comfort that individual. We'll understand why it might need some comfort. But at that moment, there's also impure spirits, negative forces that also surround the body. You have to keep in mind that the body in this world is considered an impure thing, certainly in the spiritual world. The body is not the pure part of us. The soul is. The body is not. The body is filled with selfish desires, our ego, selfish desires, only personal needs and so on, though we can transform the consciousness of the body, which is part of the reason why we're here. But in general, it's considered not the pure part of the person, the body. The soul, however, is. So, according to the Kabbalists, this moment is actually a crucial time when the soul is departing. And there are different stages of the departure of the soul. There's the lowering into the ground. And after that, that's a process within itself. And a good thing to do if you attend a funeral, if you know the name of the person, I'm sure you probably know the name of the person, and if you know the name of the father and or the mother of the person, it's good to meditate on their names. In other words, so-and-so, son of those parents. Why? We'll get into. But there's a confusion after the soul is leaving the body. There's a confusion of the memory. And it is considered what should we call it? An amulet or a good tool, let's say, to be cognizant of your name. Sounds strange. Every day. Be cognizant of your name every day. Why? Because we tend to forget our name after the soul is leaving the body. Okay? We'll get into it. Why would you forget your name? You just spent however many years with that name. Is it possible for us to forget our name? Yes, it is. We'll get to that in a minute. Okay. So the soul, at that moment that the soul is leaving the body, and after it leaves, there are two experiences, we would say, that the soul is going through. There is a sense of liberation because, depending on the spiritual level of the person, because for a truly spiritual person, they know their body is a limitation. That this world is a limitation for the soul. It's a funny thing. When we're young children, we spin around, right? And we get dizzy, we fall down, we laugh, and then we get up and we do it again. It's almost like, a person wants to experience an altered state of consciousness. And many people, as they get older, they use drugs and artificial ways of getting high. What does it mean, getting high? Meaning experience some sort of, perhaps an outer of body experience, because there is a natural tendency for the soul to want freedom, because innately we know that our body is while it can have pleasure and all sorts of things in this world, it is a limitation for the spirit. Now that doesn't mean we don't want to feed the body and like the body, even love, our body to a certain point, but it is a limitation. We don't fly with a body, right? Our soul can fly. We don't necessarily fly with a body. There were Kabbalists in ancient times that were able to experience flight and so on, and also other incredible things, says the Zohar. But for the most part, most of us don't do that. And so there is a sense of liberation when the soul, or at least the major components of the soul, are leaving. But there's also a possibility for confusion. Confusion. Let me explain the confusion. If you've ever maybe dozed off, and usually not after a night's sleep, but when you've dozed off and you've gone into a really deep, deep sleep, and suddenly you're woken up, and you are suddenly in a stupor, right? You might not know what day it is. Just for that moment, you don't know what day it is, you don't know where you are, you don't know who you are, and it takes you a couple of minutes. What just happened? Where am I? Oh, and then a moment later, you realize, you come to understand. Oh yeah, wow, I must have dozed off, and so on and so forth. But in that space of time, and I want you to imagine this, and it is a bit frightening. In that moment of confusion, when you don't know where you are, you're not sure at that moment even who you are, and you don't know anything. You're feeling very confused. Imagine if it didn't wear off and it stayed. That's a bit frightening. So you're in a state of confusion and you don't know exactly where you are. This state can be the state for a time. An undetermined amount of time, can be long or short, when the soul is separating for the first, let's say, up to 7 days, that the soul will be in a state of this type of confusion, depending on the spiritual work that a person did in this world. And that's also why I say it's a good idea, according to the Kabbalist, when they're putting a person into the ground, if you attend a funeral, then it's good to meditate on their name. Why? Because it says, and again, this might sound strange, we have to understand the spiritual implication, that the person is asked their name, or it becomes quite uncomfortable. They're asked their name, what their name was in this world. Why on earth would a person be asked their name? In fact, there's even a space in the prayers for people who do these particular prayers to recite a biblical verse that contains your name, which is supposed to assist a person to remember one's name on what is called the Judgment Day. Why is that? Why is that? Because the name is the spiritual essence of the person. The Kabbalists explained the name of a person is the vessel that holds the energy of the soul. It's expressed through your name. Now, some people don't like their name. Some people do like their name, okay? We did a video about that, about, what's in a name. But our name is actually quite important. For some people, their name, wakes them up. You like to hear the sound of your name, someone calling you. For others, it's sort of like, rubbing the fur in the wrong direction on a pet. It irks you. You might not like it, which might indicate you should change your name. Your name isn't facilitating your spiritual work. Be that as it may, depending on the level of the spiritual connection that a person has achieved, which means their name. Meaning, if a person was really, truly doing their spiritual work in this world, overcoming their ego, overcoming negativity, well, in that case, they are connected more with their name, which is their spiritual essence, and they will remember their name. Interesting process. So there can be confusion for up to 7 days. Now this, would be the first 7 days after the passing of a person, okay? From the time that the person is put into the ground and buried, not after death necessarily. Okay, so there's after death, but it might be a day, two, for whatever reason, between the time of death and the person being buried. Okay. Now, there is, again, the surrounding of the relatives, at least initially, and that is for a person who merits, it's to help the person, to comfort them, maybe to welcome them, because it's a new experience, okay? Because we're not in touch directly with that yet, and so there can be, again, for that person who merits, if it wasn't a negative soul in this world, otherwise there will be negative entities, which I don't want to go too much into that, but okay. The next step in the process, kadnafik nishmata mahai alma, Adchad malach dedame leneshe v'chad malach dedame leorev. Okay, and then the next stage is when the soul leaves this world. There is one angel that appears in the form of an eagle, which is a positive force, and another angel in the form of a raven, okay, which is not a positive force. And they come near the body. And all the person's deeds and actions are bound up upon in it and written before it. What does that mean? Well, the Zohar explains a process where a person is able now to see every single action they performed in this world. Everything. Everything is written down. Every action and every thought. Frightening? Perhaps. I mean, if you're, doing your work, then nothing to be frightened about. And if you're not, maybe it's a motivator. Maybe it's a motivator and inspiring us to do more spiritual work. But every thought and action is written down, and we are able to see it. Meaning, we're able to see how every action that we did affected everyone and everything else down the line. Meaning not only the immediate, but how that action affected the next and the next and the next as a result of me. So we don't only affect those who we directly affect, but by my actions, if I hurt somebody, and then because they were hurt, they did something to somebody else, I also have a part in that. Okay? Crazy. So we're able to see all of that. And then it says, Nishmatin salkin lebeit din, letata lebeit din de la'ela. And then the soul ascends from the lower court, and that's the court actually, we are judging. We would like to think that someone is judging us, but nobody's really judging us except, guess who? Us. Us. That's a court. We're judging. That's what happens in court. You're judged. But it's not that someone is judging you or I. We are judging because we're in a pure state. There's no such thing as I forgot, right? We don't have the limitations of the body, remember. So there's no forgetting. There's pure consciousness, pure truth that we are faced with, and we judge that. I mean, as crazy as that sounds, we are making determinations based on what we need. What is the remedy for if I created negative actions? What is the reward if I created positive actions? We are determining. As strange as it sounds, it's not, well, God is making these decisions. Not really. Not the way we might think. It is, there's a system. The system that, yes, the Creator, God puts the system in place by which we sort of judge ourselves. And that's the court, and to the higher court until they reach the Garden of Eden. Okay? What is the Garden of Eden? It's a level, okay? It's a level of light, spiritual light. It says, then the gates open for them, and that soul ascends to its level. A soul ascends to its level, meaning what? Whatever level that the soul has achieved in this world. In other words, again, we have to understand that we can do no work in the spiritual world. We can do no change. There's no change in the spiritual world. Everything is. This world is to create the accomplishments or changes, transformations, excuse me, and so on. The spiritual world, none of that is possible. And so we take only from this world, whatever we achieve in this world is what we take to the next world. That's it. We can't take money with us. We can't take anything material, obviously. What is it that we do take? We take the positive actions that we've created in this world, how we made other people feel in this world. We take the good that we did in this world. That's what we take. Unfortunately, we also take the other stuff, and sometimes that will necessitate a reincarnation, which we'll get to now, right? So every stage that a person goes through reflects the soul's refinement in this world. The Zohar says that some souls must pass through a cleansing station. According to Rabbi Isaac Luria, we all pass through a cleansing station, which is called Gehinnom. Even righteous souls pass through this cleansing stage, but we go through it differently. And it's interesting, because this cleansing or spiritual fire is not what we might think. It says that a righteous person has a very easy time with it, but a negative person has a very hard time with it. How can we understand that? Well, two people in this world can go through a difficult challenge. One can say, wow, this is an amazing opportunity for me to get closer to the spiritual world, or to do my work, or to have more success. This is an opportunity. Another one says, oh no, I don't want, oh, it's hard for me, it's challenging, I don't like it, it's uncomfortable, I don't like it. And that's the meaning of it. When we welcome it, it says a righteous person welcomes this, and it's half a second. Why? Because he knows this will bring him closer to the Creator, closer to the light. But a person who's a negative person is only concerned with his discomfort. Think about that. In this world, what we can learn from it is when we're more focused on the discomfort rather than going through difficulty in order to get to a higher stage of whatever, of good, of business, of abundance, of a relationship. But it's uncomfortable, it's unnatural, yeah. And how are you going to go through it? Complaining, kicking, and screaming? Or are you going to welcome the opportunity? That's a question. If you welcome the opportunity, you go through it very easily. If you don't, everything is difficult when that's your mindset. Something to think about. Now, reincarnation. So there is, of course, the aspect of reincarnation when necessary, and most of us have been here at least several times. Nishmata de Inun Chovin from the Zohar and the Zohar in Mishpatim, actually happens to be this week's portion, not by coincidence. Nishmata de Inun Chovin Mitkatrin Behon Azla Va'atyan La'alma. Okay. And I'm just reading part of the original verse for the connection. It says, the soul carries the weight of the negativity it created and returns to this world. When there's negativity that needs to be changed or transformed that I didn't do, it will return to this world. That is a reincarnation. For tikkun, for correction, for rectification. But the world does not recognize it. It continues to reincarnate until it is rectified. As long as a person does not correct his whatever he came to correct, or she, so it continues to return. another stage, another stage, another stage. Now, there's a process to this, okay, and there's a way to know. And if you want to know more about that, maybe, I have a course on the website at RabbiAbe.com called Changing Destiny. You might want to check that one out. Okay. Now, the concept that Gilgul or Gilgulim, which are different incarnations, explains why some souls are born into difficult lives and some not so difficult, because we, in a general way, we are correcting the soul's issues, removing negativity, and correcting whatever it is that I came here to correct. And there are definitely ways. Kabbalistic astrology can explain this. Palm or face, the reading of the face can explain this, what I came to correct. As I said, Kabbalistic astrology can also explain this aspect, all of which we provide. And the Zohar, again, back to Yitro, explains what is the ultimate. Excuse me. All right, got a little dry. V'kat nishpat asalik lahahu itra ila'a itkasha benetzcha v'idabkat be'or kadisha. Ultimately, when the soul ascends to its highest place, it becomes bound in eternal light. It goes back to what we call the endless. What is that? Endless bliss, endless fulfillment, endlessly and eternally. We go through the process and correct whatever it is that we came for. We've done the work that our soul came to do in this world. And it says, when the soul ascends to that highest place, it becomes bound in eternal light, uniting it with the holy illumination, never to separate from it again for eternity. Now that sounds pretty good. As much as we become, how should we say, bound up in this world, it's not the reason why we're here, is not for this world. This world is only for what he calls correction, and the object is to go back to be reunited with the Creator's light endlessly. Now, excuse me, this is going to be an interesting video with all the coughing. I don't know if we can cut that out somehow. But, okay, let me ask you a question. Knowing this, how would this change us? Could this change us? Change our life or how we live our life? Because, it's not about fear. We're not here to be afraid or do spiritual work out of fear. Never. We came to learn how to come to a place of love. Not only for each other, but love for the universe, love for the Creator that put us here in order to do this work, to give us an opportunity that we desired as souls, we desired to become a co-creator together with the Creator, a co-creator. Because the Kabbalistic thought and the thought of creation was only to bestow to the creation. But the created, meaning the emanated soul, said, you know what, but I want to be part of this. I don't want to just sit back and be just a receiver, a passive recipient. I want to make my own decisions. I want to decide to receive. I want to decide that I'll do work and then I'll receive. Because the creation of my receiving is the real pleasure. The achievement of life, the achievement in life is the real pleasure of life. Having whatever it is that we have, great, small, has a limited shelf life. But those things that we achieve, that we've done through truly work and spiritual work, physical work, earning, creation, achievement, those are the things that last for us. And they never go away. In fact, with time, they probably get better. That's why we came. Why is it so? Because we didn't come to have. There's nothing wrong with having, as long as it comes as a result of our work, our effort, and our creation, and what the Kabbalists also call correction, transformation from where I used to be to where I am today. There's no pleasure greater than that if you really think about it. So I want for all of us that this will help us and inspire us to understand, well, wait a minute. Yes, there is a system, a definite system. It definitely has parameters. And this system operates with certain rules. And it's not just, well, we leave this world and everything is great. Well, no, there's a process. There's a process to get to the ultimate of, what we actually came here for. That begins with the knowledge of understanding that there's a reason why we're here. And there's a process. And we need to know about that process in order to truly accomplish it. So I hope this helps. And great to see you. I haven't posted in more than a week, unfortunately. I apologize for that. And I'll see you very soon on the next one. All the best, guys, and lots of love.